Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. This is JT, your host of the Consequence of Habit podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Big shout out to our one and only sponsor for now. Big news coming that way. But for now, Athletic Brewing, maker of the finest NA beer, craft beer. Let me start over. The finest NA craft beer on the market, in my opinion. You know, when I came to the conclusion that alcohol no longer played a part in my life, I was bummed out. I was bummed out because I was giving up this thing I truly appreciated, the taste of. Unfortunately, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I had all these other repercussions. We had, consequences to my habit that made it unsustainable. And here I am. So I'm giving it up. I'm giving up the taste of craft beer that I identified with. I loved it. I loved the people that are around it. There was a lot of it I truly enjoyed. I just didn't like the poison. I didn't like the dark side of it. Fortunately, I came across Athletic Brewing Company. You know, these guys, their whole motto is brew without compromise. And man, compromise is such an important word when I think about what they're doing, my own journey, and how I don't have to compromise the taste of amazing beer because I gave up drinking. So whether you're somebody that just isn't going to drink tonight or doesn't want alcohol tonight for whatever your reasons are, that's on you. Or you're somebody like me who says, not only am I not going to drink tonight, but I'm just not going to drink. But I do love really good beer. Well, hot damn, man. There is something out there for you, and that is the Athletic Brewing Company. I don't care what kind of beer you like. They are making it. So be kind to yourself. Use the promo code capital COH. Let me try that again. Use the promo code capital COH20 and get 20% off your first order. All right, this week's guest. You know, back when I started this project in July, this thing was new. It was raw. I was just trying to figure it out. I was trying to get kind of my foot in the door. And I reached out to this gentleman named Taylor Spike. And Taylor and I started this correspondence back and forth. And I mean, he was apprehensive about coming on. It took a bit. It took a bit of showing some street cred with him before he said, okay. And, you know, every interview I do here is important to me. And it means something. And I appreciate it. And then there's some that just leave like it's like my brain's been branded by this short conversation that I'm having with, by all definitions, a stranger. So since that conversation I had with Taylor back in July, it is Flip Flops is the most downloaded episode I've had. I was proud to have been part of it. I'm just as proud to be part of part 2 as I was for part 1. Taylor agreed to come on. He's got the Cocodona 250-mile race, May 3rd. He talks about his motivation. And it's probably not what you think. This guy isn't doing it just to go out and prove that he can run 250 miles. It's much deeper. We get into whatever his higher power is. And it's emotional, man. It's the second one. It's an emotional conversation, but it's just one I really appreciate having. So thank you, Taylor, for coming back on. I hope you guys get something from this. I know I did. So without further delay, please welcome to the podcast, Taylor Spike. All right, this is JT, and we are back with the Consequence of Habit podcast, and I'm starting one of the OGs. There is a podcast, and this was one of the most powerful ones I'd taken part in, and it was right in the beginning. It was back in July, and that was with Mr. Taylor Spike, and we are lucky enough to have him back. So Taylor, so much for coming back. Part deux.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. It'd be fun to catch back up.
Yeah. So. And some people ask me, they're like, hey, do you guys, not meaning you and I, but do you have conversations after the podcast? And you and I, we touch base. I mean, it's not like all the time, but I'd say every couple months we'll kind of check in with each other and see how we're doing. And I mean, I think it's awesome just because, you know, you end up sharing stuff that is, I mean, it's intimate shit, right? Like it's real
Yeah.
stuff. So I think it's important, man, that it's not just this one time, hey, let's put this out, see how many downloads we get, but that we actually build somewhat a relationship. So I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. I think I've even sent you some notes after some podcasts that you've had that really touched,
Yeah.
just to give you feedback on that stuff. Cause that stuff important, that's building bridges, right. And sharing stuff and being called out, being held accountable a little bit. I
Yes.
shared that stuff with you. I trusted you to do with it what you wanted, what was fair, right? So that's a relationship, man.
It is. It is.
People run from that stuff all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've gotten so many. Yours is a staple when people are like, "Hey, what is this whole thing you're trying to do?" And I say it's a platform. You know, I got on and I started talking a little bit about myself, but it's a platform for people to come on because when people start sharing these stories, they inspire people. And I'm gonna guess. I know for me that when you're in a dark place, and I was in a dark place, that you need to hear. You need to hear that there is something on the other side of that. At least there's at least a direction to start heading, because it's easy to get stuck in your own head and think like, this is it, man. This is what I've got going for the rest of my life. So that's not really a question, just me kind of putting it out there. But yeah, let's pick up, man. Let's pick up where we left off, which was back in July. I've touched base with you a couple of times. It's like, hey, man, if you ever want to come back on, you got something you want to talk about, you've got an event coming up. And recently you said, matter of fact, I do have something coming up. So
Yeah.
let's jump into that. What new adventures does Taylor Spike have here on the horizon?
Well, I didn't have, we wanted to go to the Grand Canyon to do ashes, Donovan's ashes. Pamela and Paxton and we wanted to really get to the river and do ashes there. So that was kind of a vacation that we started last year. And then in February, again, I was back and I was in Quartzsite, Arizona working, and I had, you're basically driving past the Grand Canyon essentially. And I was really, I told Pamela, we got to do it. I mean, that's got to be the vacation that we do. So that was, we wanted to be able to spread ashes in one of the deepest and most remote places on earth. Right. So like the Grand Canyon. Fit that in that. But on my trip to Arizona, I was in the Superstitions, which is outside of Apache Junction, like a Phoenix area. And I was doing a run, kind of a solo run out there, and I put a bunch of miles in while I was working, and I twisted my ankle and pretty bad. And it was kind of one of those moments. It's like, Arizona got me. And then if you have a 19-hour drive home, you start thinking, right? And so I started thinking more about this race, this Cocodona 250 that goes through Sedona and Prescott Valley and Flagstaff and all these, awesome, areas of Arizona. And it's a 250-mile race and it's in May. And so this is February and I'm like, that this could all fit. We could do a vacation in the Grand Canyon. I could put some miles in. I could kind of be familiar with the area, kind of feel at home a little bit and see if I really want to do this race. 250 miles. I told myself after Tahoe that I was going to wait till I was 45 to do another one. But, with COVID and life and being pinned down at home, right, for the last year, essentially, being at my dining room table working like a lot of other people, it's like I needed new goals. They needed to be huge.
Yeah.
So Cocodona, that's coming up. That's next week. That's next Monday. Actually, it'll be May 3rd.
Wow. So
that's exciting.
Explain. So, I mean, you say, hey, I'm going to run 250 miles. What does that entail? How many days are we looking at, and what type of terrain, elevation, kind of stuff like that?
You have, I think there's a 110-hour cutoff. So I think that's 5 days. Starts on Monday. We start Monday morning. And it's a point-to-point race, and it starts at Black Canyon is where Black Canyon Trail, I believe, is where it starts, and then it goes basically north to Flagstaff. And it's a series. It links some communities together. Like typically races will be pretty remote. Like a Tahoe 200, you didn't see people. I use like some through hikers every now and then, but this will go through the communities and, through town, and Whiskey Row is one of them. I think that was in Jerome, maybe. But that's where it's going to be a little different. That's going to be fun. That'll be make it a little bit exciting to come into the town and see people, if they're out or not, or they're honking at you because they think you're crazy, whatever that interaction will be different. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So
I just want to back up just a little bit, just to give a quick recap of our first podcast. Our first one came to fruition. I started this, and this was part of my journey of quitting drinking and then analyzing some other things in my life and trying to figure out why I was doing things. And I saw some posts that you had put out, and I reached out, and you and I started a correspondence. And anyone who I highly encourage, because it's one of in this journey of the podcast and the consequence of habits, one of the things I'm really most proud of. But to go back and check out that episode, I'll have in the show notes which one it is. But your process, because you're talking about now about spreading ashes. I just want everyone to really kind of understand how this plays into your life, your journey. Donovan was your son. He's an integral part of you getting sober.
Yep.
I mean, it was one of the huge catalysts, correct? I mean, this was, and again, somebody can go back and listen to figure some of that out. But we brush over it very quickly in the first one. But Donovan passed it, and he was 19 at the time.
He was 21.
21 at the time.
He just freshly in October he turned 21, and then that December we lost him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this from here. So when you hear you talking about spreading ashes, and since then, you were running before, but it seems that it's really taken on a new meaning. And I encourage anyone also to go back and check out some of your posts. When you're suffering, and I'm going to actually let you talk about it, because explain when you were in a tough place, you're 200 miles in, or you're just suffering. Explain what that does, or what that process is of you going through the spreading the ashes, and what it means to you.
Well,
I'm going to get you right from the beginning, man. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's like, I tell Paxton, my little one, all the time, think before you speak, but sometimes when you do that, you get choked up before you can speak.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Well, yeah, we carry ashes everywhere we go. Mm-hmm. Pamela does, my wife, and I do. We also have tattoos that kind of correlate with that too. Mm-hmm. So there's this, we want to get the ashes to the place that we feel the most uncomfortable. Just because of the simple fact that the discomfort that he would have felt, or whatever he felt at the end of his life, is we'll never experience that.
Right.
Maybe we will. Maybe in an accident. We lost him in a car accident. No airbag, no seatbelt. On impact, he died. So it's like this. How long does somebody sit there and suffer before they actually die?
Right.
People talk about trying to find things that are inspirational or motivational. I can think of a billion things of other people suffering that make my life seem pretty simple, right? So taking ashes with us, tops of mountains when it's the hardest, you want to give up, pour some ashes out. Tahoe 200, I poured ashes numerous times. It's a reality check.
Yeah.
Here's someone's bones in your hand that you're responsible for, that you lost, and to think that I'm suffering, that's not the case, I don't think. So it's kind of like our going to church, right? So each time that we do that, we spread that we have his handprints on our backs. Pamela has a handprint that's more of like he's hugging her. And then I have a handprint on my shoulder where he's kind of pushing me from behind, kind of saying it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's a deep moment. Those are two different moments though, right? That's like when I'm feeling sorry for myself and I think it's hard, he gives me a little push, or I'm scared. If I'm scared, he gives me that push. But then when I've gotten there and it's hard and I want to quit, I know I can do it. I want to share that moment with him. And that's when we do the ashes. Like, it is pretty funny because, I say it, I'm all choked, I'm awfully choked up. And, I think people might think it's this real, like, surreal moment, super special. Pam and I were joking this last week when we were at the Grand Canyon, and Paxton had done it, I had done it, and she had it. We put the ashes in our hands. We usually take a picture so we know where we are when we were together, because people forget those moments all the time, right? Yeah. People might think it's cliche to take a picture, but it's a moment. And but doing ashes and throwing them up in the wind and the ashes blowing in your face, right? That's like, that probably happens more times than the most. People probably imagine this beautiful moment. And usually it's funny. Donovan was a funny dude. He had a hysterical giggle, and it's him blowing it back in your face. Yeah, it's just, right. That's the way it is.
Right.
Yeah. I was on the North Rim, 2 weeks ago, when I did the rim to rim. You go south to north and back across the Grand Canyon. And I got to the north side, and there's some people there, and I did ashes, and I threw them up and just covered my face in ashes. And I looked at them, and they kind of looked at me, and I thought, it's how it happens every time.
Yeah.
Back at you.
Well, before we hit record here, you and I were just kind of shooting the breeze about what we're going to talk about. And that was something I've thought about. There's the process of getting sober and Donovan's part in that. And then I didn't know you before this. I see what you're doing now, and I see these adventures you're on, and I see you doing something that does not fit within the this box of what your everyday person is doing. And I asked you, is this lifestyle, how much is inspired by that? I know you were doing some pretty extreme things in before Donovan passed, but what has your outlook on life changed since him, and maybe how you go about living your life?
Well, I think, a lot, right? I mean, our time here is very short. Having 3 sons, losing a son, and having 2 others, it's like, those things that maybe we struck him down for, put him down for, it's, those are trivial. Now having grandchildren, it was just crazy. I just going back and spending time with my son and watching him with his daughter and his son, my grandkids, I realized, those moments, and then the Donovan piece are just a lot of the things that we worry about, man, are just really pointless. I cannot remember where I read it. Worry is the debt you pay, or worry is the price you pay for a debt you don't owe. And I'm totally stealing that from somebody. I don't know where it was, but it was, that's what the ashes means, probably to Pamela and I the most, is that all the things you worry about, probably nothing's ever going to compare to the worry that you go through when you lose a kid, and the worry that we do for our own children. Right. So all the other worries, jobs, making mortgage payment, whatever, that's trivial shit. That stuff, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So the ashes are always this reminder of our time here is short. You better make the most of it. Cause you don't know, you don't know.
Has it been part of, no, it's a stupid question. I'm going to stop myself. I'm going to start doing what you do, is take a minute to think before I speak. But
I did that once. Actually, it was just a little while ago when I said it. Otherwise, I just talk.
Yeah, that was the first time. So anyone who's gone through the process of analyzing things, and specifically in the world of addiction or substance misuse, you get down. The point is to try and get down to the root of why we do stuff, and it's a spiritual journey. Whether you're religious, whatever your thought on a higher power is, there is something to me that is very special about having something in front of you that you could not stop doing. You've tried a million times, but at some point something sticks, and for you. You correct me if I'm wrong, but that higher power was the look in your son's eyes as he's looking at you, and that's what you needed, right? And that starts a journey of finding more meaning in life, finding something bigger, being a better version of yourself. And from your post, that journey's continued. That was had to start before Donovan's passing, and it's continued since. What does that look like to you on a daily basis? Do you have a routine? Do you have to just kind of keep reminding yourself some of the things you were just saying about there's more important things in life than whatever this trivial shit that seems to be coming to the surface now? Is it reading? What is it?
Yeah, I guess we all want to leave a mark, right? And that's Donovan left his mark, and he's left it heavy in our hearts and souls, and I think that's what we all want to do. So recently I decided, and I guess it fits into that, is that I want to go to K2. I want to go to base camp K2. My dad's been to base camp at Everest or close to it. But I got caught up watching YouTube, man. You watch his videos on YouTube, and next, I'm looking at flights, I'm reading, and I have become obsessed with K2, not necessarily climbing the mountain. I mean, that would be, more people have done that than they've been to space. So, it's, to say anything, that's way beyond my abilities, but getting to base camp's like an 80-mile trek. And I really want to do ashes at base camp, with the hopes that maybe someday, maybe my grandkids or great grandkids or someone, if I grew up, knowing that my grandpa or great grandpa had done my, uncle or whoever's ashes at base, I would want to go there just for that reason. And then maybe it inspires somebody differently, right? Yeah. Maybe one of the kids wants to climb the mountain someday. Maybe, that's a reason for them, but that's a 10-year, and it's like career-wise, I don't have a lot of money. I'm not going to leave my kids this pile of cash. There's not going to be anything for them, when I go and Pam and I go paycheck to paycheck, and we struggle like everybody else. And we save up pennies to be able to do our vacations. And we're, just like regular folk, we get a handful of vacation days a year. And she took her week. She didn't have any vacation. So it's, we pay for that, but where we want to leave that is in this form of adventure and journey, and, getting outside and stomping your feet and going somewhere and making a memory.
Well, you're doing it, man. I mean, and not only are you doing it, I mean, you even when you talk about like Donovan left a mark with you, he continues to leave a mark because through you are inspiring. I know it's not, well, I can't even say it's your motivation. But when you post, because you're very good about documenting your adventures. And first of all, it's like you're a freaking professional photographer. Some of these pictures that you just put out from Sedona, good God, man. Dude, they're amazing. They're truly amazing.
It's crazy to go through my phone. I tell my wife all the time, I said, there's thousands of photos in here that are just amazing. And I said, I only post like a couple. I said, I don't even know what to do with them all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And what an amazing experience for your youngest son, Paxton, to live through these adventures with you guys. There's he's going to look back at this, and it's going to be, I mean, you don't need money to those experiences that he's having. You can't put a price tag on it.
Well, we took him, we did 7 days at the Grand Canyon, basically, and Sedona and Flagstaff, and we were living out of the van. We hadn't showered. We'd been cooking everything out of there and sleeping together. And we went to Vegas, and you're talking about the experience piece. That was part of the experience. So we literally told Paxton walking down this, into the hotel, that he's going to see things that he could never have imagined. And that there's people that are truly in need of entertainment. And there's truly people who struggle with things that, and he was doing, the mother, the Holy Christ, whatever he is praying for people essentially at the end of the night, and after his mom and him had walked the strip. It's just an experience piece. He's never going to see that stuff here. We don't do that. We don't party like that. We don't know people. That's just so different But that's an experience. Pamela and I had never been to Vegas, but it was really fun to be able to take our kid and explain it in a way that he kind of got it,
Mm-hmm.
and he saw, that there's a lot of crazy people in this world and it's just intoxicated. I mean, we were literally there for probably 8 hours. I mean, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we swam in the pool, went and had $70 worth of cheeseburgers,
Mm-hmm.
and got up in the morning at 6 a.m. and we saw plenty.
Yeah, yeah.
To realize, it's just chaos.
Dude, Vegas to me, especially if you just walk like a 1 or 2 blocks off the strip, it is like a scared straight program. I mean, that it is. Anytime I've been to Vegas, I leave depressed because it is the epitome of emptiness. You see these flashing lights. You see this fake world on a street, and the harsh reality. I mean, if that strip is up here, and my hand to being a podcast is up high, reality from coming down of trying to live that life is just a
Yeah.
block away, and it is fucking ugly, man. It's depressing, and there's a
I was in
lot.
bed. I was in bed by 9.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. It was too much for me. It was just I could sit in the desert and look at the stars and stress myself out if I want to. I don't need a bunch of flashing lights and sounds and people to do it.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I just couldn't. Even my wife, we were just both like, wow, it's just so overwhelming. But
yeah.
some people dig that. So
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that there's people that aren't like us that can that could probably have done it in a way that it's moderation, right?
yeah.
I walk around there and I'm almost sick to my stomach only because I just know how a lot of them are going to feel the next day. You know what I mean? I see them and I'm like, oh God, man, your morning is going to suck tomorrow.
We were watching a dude get stuffed into a wheelchair.
Oh,
The
yeah.
security was putting him in a wheelchair, and we're walking by, and the look on my son's face was just like in awe. And I'm thinking, man, I'm good. Glad they didn't have a camera when I was like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've been there, and I
Yep.
just know, it's the same way, man. I guess I didn't think about it that way because I see it in the moment. I guess I've never really thought about how they're going to feel the next day, but I just think in that moment, what you're trying to process in your mind, it's just chaos, and you
Yes.
have no idea what you're doing. Yeah, it's just a retreat that's really ugly to everybody else.
Yeah, trying to piece those things together, and
Ugh,
the, I've been in. I go for work trips, and then in the airport the next day, I see the amount of people I've seen like miss a flight because they've made it to the airport, but then they passed out and fell
yeah,
asleep, and they've missed their flight. I'm like, oosh, there we go, man. Consequence of habit, right? It's like,
yeah,
it's,
exactly.
so you're going off to Cocodona 250, and explain when we talk about even Donovan. Explain what do you mean by that? That this is all part of it. Is it how is it to honor him in ways too when you go do these big events and you suffer? Were these things that you would be doing whether Donovan passed or not, or how does that play into this, or even the K2 or
I don't think that I would. I think that I would. Yeah, I know I would absolutely have already. I wouldn't have signed up for Cocodona. I would have tried to find. I have a 100 miler and I'm doing in August. I got into, and I would probably stay at that level because there's a huge discomfort piece that happens in those events. Training for them, doing any of that. I could just doing the Grand Canyon trip across the river and back. There's moments in there that, you know, I don't think that I would be able to, having Donovan's ashes with me, knowing I wanted to get him back to the South Rim. Obviously you can't quit during that stuff, but if I did, there's times that I don't have his ashes with me, that the run is different. It's
mm,
just, it's just not I don't know. I guess, I think I would settle back a little bit.
yeah,
I wouldn't have the drive to show my kids up,
yeah,
for my other
yes,
sons to see that. I don't think that, Paxton, I think just everybody's course would be so different.
mm-hmm.
I don't think that I'd be drinking by any means, but I definitely
Yeah,
think I'd be in a different place.
yeah. What are
Yeah,
your
just,
with the pictures you see? I mean, we've seen your now that you're a grandfather, we've seen some pictures from that. But what's your thought from your other sons about like what you're doing? And I mean, I just, it's got to be something. I mean, you've experienced it, but to be an adult and see your dad doing something that there is such a small percentage of people that would be willing to do. What is their response to you about this kind of stuff?
Um, it's kind of normal for him.
Oh, okay.
A little bit, but Paxton gets it. Paxton gets it. Like when him and his mom and he and his mom had gone to the river and back up in the Grand Canyon. And there's only a handful of people that even do that, right? Mm-hmm. So he gets that he's doing things. He's told Pamela and I that he leads a premium kid life.
That's cool.
He doesn't complain. I mean, he can scramble around on the rocks. And we were looking for caves in Sedona and tucking under through these, arches and whatnot. He eats it up. But he sees other kids and he sees other people and realizes that, what we're doing is different. But he never, they never really say much about it. I mean, it's kind of goes with it.
Hey, what do you think it is about your family that, not just your immediate, but even like your dad and it just seems like you guys are drawn. You're I don't know if you're cut out of a different piece of wood than other people or it's just it's been normalized because you've seen people in your own family do some pretty extreme stuff. I mean, what is the difference? Because not everyone, but a lot of other people from the outside look at that and go, God, this group of people, they're doing something different.
Honestly, I think probably a lot of it has to do with growing up and never being told that you're doing a good job or ever feeling like you're good at something.
Really?
I think my brother, I know Cam would say the same thing. I've had moments, my sister and I have talked about, that's probably, and my dad will say the same. He'll say the same thing about, his dad never telling him he did a good job. He went to Vietnam and he comes home and he never really heard that, I'm proud of you, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I've heard that from my dad recently, but growing up, I think it's that looking for acceptance, feeling like that you're good at something.
Yeah. My next question was, your dad came from a guy who overindulged himself. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. No, absolutely, he did. Yep.
Is that and you know other people that are within the running world that are fairly extreme in the running world that come from a background in overindulging.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think we might have covered this a little bit, but what is the connection between that, man? What is it? Is it just?
Oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble. Well, I think it's twofold. My dad and I have talked about this. Is that this is gonna sound really crazy, but since we've both found running and you're overindulging and running. You're doing the same thing, but it's socially acceptable. Everybody's encouraging it. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing. And I told Buddy, I said, it's a test to see how fucked up you can get and win. I said, that's what it is. To me, my dad, and we both said that, but then looking at like alcoholism and our addictions is that, now with running, you almost kind of feel like you just grew up. Like maybe you weren't really addicted to the alcohol because clearly you're addicted to the running, right? And you're addicted to the high that it gives you and everybody's okay with it. So why would I quit doing it? I'm just gonna do more of it. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's crazy. My dad and I have both like you got to kind of put yourself in check because I see these guys run themselves into the ground. I mean, I've been, doing these now, I mean, not for a long time, maybe almost a decade. And I've seen a lot of people on a very similar journey to mine go so far into it. And I don't think they ever step back and check themselves because you're going to crash and burn. It's the same thing when you're drinking or using drugs. You're going to go as far as you possibly can until you find your limit. And in running, you're going to break. You're going to physically, mentally, something's going to give and you'll never do it again. So it's, I've had those moments that I've been hurt and I had to really step back and look. And those are the things I look back at my pill addiction or drinking and say, maybe I've grown up. And that was and then but the running piece, it's just, there's a lot of people that are on a very similar path. And I don't know how they all process it. I think some of them think it's this, maybe a sobering moment, and it's something that they can, they use for their sobriety in a different way. But man, when you're out there and you're running far, you're high as hell. I mean, your brain, your sleep deprivation, you're telling me over 250 miles. I want to do that in like, 60-ish hours. And I want to do that in a handful of hours of sleep. That is as drunk as you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't read. You should not be driving. I mean, it's real, I'm not saying it's okay, but that's part of the process. Right. And I'm not saying I do it to look for that by any means, but that is what happens. And for anybody to say it doesn't, they're crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, these are that you have to be honest about it. And I think, I can only speak of the drinking side, not the running 200 miles, but you're searching for stillness, man. You're searching for stillness in your brain, and however that comes, whatever that looks like. And, I talk to other people reach out to me and they're like, hey, how did you do it? And I'll tell them, hey, this is how the process starts. And even a 12-step or any of this stuff, it's supposed to get to the truth. But if you think you won't stop chasing stillness in your brain, like if you stop drinking, that all of a sudden everything is cool and copacetic and you won't try and find like a way to escape, you're out of your mind.
You are out of your mind. Yeah, no, you're right. And so here's the other piece to it is that 4 or 5 days of running or whatever that is, let's say it's 100-miler and it's going to be a full day. How many people out there that have a drinking problem or a pill problem, they couldn't go 24 hours? Right. I mean, so it's, to be able to do something for multiple days, you're forcing yourself to check in, it's, can I do it? And I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to die. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's important to hear, I guess it's so easy when you're going through that process, especially in the beginning, to feel sorry for yourself because you feel like you're holding something back, this form of pleasure. From yourself, instead of thinking about, hey, I'm doing myself a service. I'm being as kind to myself as I possibly can. So it's like this way of thinking about things, and it has to be, I'm going to guess, the same thing for running. It's there's a motivation behind what you're doing, which is again the higher power, but it's got to be a perspective like, how I'm going to feel when this is done, this sense of accomplishment, instead of I'm feeling sorry for myself, because that sorry for yourself has got to be an easy path to go down. It's big neon Vegas lights like pointing, go this way.
Well, yeah, when I was drinking, I don't know that I would have been able to sit on the couch for the afternoon watching TV and not had a beer, or, you know what it meant? So it's pretty to be able to sit in the quiet. Right. And now I can do that for days. But in the past, I couldn't even imagine, you'd plan, let's say you plan a weekend, you're going to camping for the weekend. How much beer am I going to need? How much whiskey am I going to take? Right. And, everything was in a way, they always say when you're planning your day around the alcohol, it didn't seem that way. It was just what I was going to need because we're camping. Right. I mean, a couple cases of beer seemed to make sense. And now to be able to look in those moments, and I think guys use running, and I guess that was my point I was trying to say, is that I think that there are individuals that will use running as their way to be able to do those things on the weekend without having to drink. They force themselves to be out on the trail for days on end as a way to sober up. And I know there's, people out there that struggle with whatever it is, and getting out there alone on the trail and facing those demons on foot alone is a huge part of their process. And I think it works for a lot of people.
When you're not running or you're injured and you got to take a step back, what is your other ways you're finding that stillness in your brain, or aren't you, where you just kind of white knuckling? Like what does that look like where you're like, I got to get out and do something because I'm familiar with this feeling of discontent, of uneasiness, and I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, and I really struggle, man. I struggle like crazy. So I was reading, and then that got boring real quick, and I realized that I wasn't retaining the book, and somebody suggested, one of our leadership people, development people at work had suggested, listen to a podcast and reading the book, or listening to the Audible and reading it. So I did that. I blew through a few books. And I felt like I got too good at it. And then all of a sudden I'd be done with the book and I'd be like, well, it's not like I went for a 10-hour run. I just couldn't, I'll do push-ups, but I struggle with it. I usually try to bury myself in work, try to, involve myself in some way that's kind of overwhelming and try to take up some space. But if I don't do 20, 30 minutes of something a day physically, I go crazy. And I don't look to drink or do that type of stuff. I look to calm down, and that would definitely be a great tool. But I'm not capable of using it well. So, but no, man, I struggle with it. I reach out to friends. I got some friends that'll do some pulse checks on me. I think they might notice that when I'm slipping, maybe social media is probably patterned enough that they can probably see my highs and lows. And I got one buddy who always says pulse check.
Like it.
So I think he knows when I'm not doing stuff. But that's just part of the process, man. That's the stuff that, in those, the growing up piece is that you gotta look back and realize there's not always going to be somebody there for you. There's not always going to be something there for you to do. It's like grounding your kids, when you sit in your room with your door shut for days on end, man, that's tough. But that's real. It happens.
Yeah. So. Yep. Well, it's, you said something that part of it is acceptance. And it goes back to the point too, of like, just because I'm not drinking doesn't mean I'm not suffering. Matter of fact, I'm actually sitting in it now, where before it was much easier. And you said alcohol is a tool, man. It's a really effective short-term tool. It's gonna screw you long-term.
Yep.
But it is great for a couple of hours. But having that acceptance, go, hey man, this is just the way my brain's wired. This is just the way I am, and I have a hard time finding stillness. So I got to take my medication, whatever that looks like, whether that's running, reading, but having the emotional awareness to see yourself going down that path. That's growing up to me. That's my version of growing up. And when I'm not listening to that, or I'm not aware of it, and I find myself going down these patterns, that's when I need those people. Or sometimes it's just me losing it on somebody and then reflecting on that, because I find the stillness for those couple seconds afterwards. And then the same thing comes back like, wait a minute. That's not healthy. That's not the way I'm supposed to find it.
Well, that's been really, with COVID, I had an office full of 15 people, and for the past year, everyone's been at home. Some of those individuals I haven't seen maybe once, and I saw them every day for years. So that's another piece is, being home and not having an interaction or having your kids home with you, that's a whole nother dynamic that, is just another one of those acceptance things that this is just the way it's going to be, and not freak out. But I can't imagine, like, what we were talking about before you had hit record about the individuals that struggle with that, who their retreat was going to work. That was their safe place. Yep. Numerous times. I mean, I've managed people for 20 years, and how many times I've told people, man, this is your safe place. Get to work, get your head down, go to work, do your job, forget about that other stuff, right? This, you're good here. You're good here. But how many of those people don't have that now? They're waking up in their pajamas, rolling over and turning their computer on and having that same day, that same life without that disconnect. That's scary. I really feel for people, and I hope people have resources to help them, because I know I wouldn't have been able to do it.
No, and that's what we were saying, that when you're in that frame of mind with substance misuse, you will find a way to justify whatever. Like, it's my day off, man. So it's cool that I'm drinking at 9 a.m. as I'm mowing the lawn. And the thought of just not going to work and just sitting around all day when you're not in a mental or a healthy mental place. And then the interaction, the relationships that you're having with your family members. Like you said, sometimes it's just getting out of the house to go to work that makes you think a little clearer. Like, man, the way I exploded on my kids, or this fight I had with my wife, I can reflect. Now it's in your face all the time. And
You have to disconnect. You have to be able to turn it off. You have to be able to separate yourself from everything else. Right. And like you just said, because if you don't have those moments to reflect and look back, I mean, if you don't have a moment to go cool down, I guess you could, your internet connection is unstable. That's what it says. Is that weird?
Dude, we are not, can you hear me now or no?
I can hear you great. Yeah, I see you too.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's lying to us.
All right.
How is it, first of all, I had no idea that Cam was even your brother. And the first time we did this thing, I had no idea. Somebody had sent me a post where Cam had had the two of you guys running. What's that relationship been with as far as your journey, your running? Are you guys close, or is it just something you guys see each other every now and then, or?
Our family is really funny. We're a blended family. I got two brothers that have different dads. Cam was a 10 when my dad came into the picture. That's about I know what that's like. I've raised boys in a blended family. Yeah. You could textbook write that shit, right? So, right. So we're not close, but nobody in our family is really close. My sister lives in Alaska. I see her literally like every other year, maybe for a brief time. She's got a herd of kids that we probably see more than her. My brother Pete lives in Eugene. I think I saw him, at Christmas. That's the family dynamic, but in the big scheme of things, Cam and I feel like have a pretty good relationship, because if you spend 70 hours or 60 hours with somebody straight, you catch up quick.
Yeah.
Right. So, Cam's been there for me more times than I can count through my entire life. I mean, being a high school kid and him ripping my ass for being hard on mom and dad, and, all the normal stuff, or beating up my sister. Yeah. You like getting beat up. He'd beat me up. He was a big brother. And when we lost Donovan, Cam said things that were, it's a lot of us, I think, refrain from saying things that we know are truthful, because maybe we'll get called out, or maybe we're afraid of what that looks like to us. We're selfish about it. It's very weird. And Cam is like, he goes, when you leave here, no one knows, they don't care. You go to the store, and Rufus at the gas stations laughing and joking, and he doesn't know your pain, and he'll never know it. So to go somewhere and expect people to care, they're not gonna, and he was right. That is so true, because if you walk around thinking, why aren't you fuckers sad? They don't know.
Yeah.
And they don't really want to know. So, Cam's he's huge. He's always that big brother that's picked up the phone, made the call, maybe said a couple words. And I'm like, dang, yeah, he's right. He's right.
Right. But there's something, and that goes back to, there is something about that family. And I don't know what your sister and your other brother are up to, but you guys seem to be comfortable in being uncomfortable, which is unique.
Yeah. Yeah. Our mom was tough too. She was, I remember when we were kids, she did jazzercise. My sister and I would sit in the back room for 100 hours, it felt like, on the weekends. And my mom would teach jazzercise 10, 12 hours a day.
Wow.
I mean, that was a full-time deal. And she'd go all over doing it and pick up multiple. And she was super fit. When you look at some of these pictures, she was just big, hundreds of people in the crowd. She was up doing that. So I think a lot of our athletic, stuff, some of that drive comes from that. When she was doing that, Dad was working 20 hours, on the roller. He was a roller operator for an asphalt company. And, he just, whatever that job looks like, it looks awfully shitty when I drive by it, but he did that for 30 some years. So, for them to retire and then be healthy, and, that's inspiring to me. And I think that's to the whole family. There's no reason to stop. I mean, my grandpa was 90 something and still ranching, and it's just, you just keep going, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine sitting back and waiting to die. And maybe that's the piece. My dad will say the same thing. When I'm ready, he's always jokes. So when I'm ready, put me in a kayak, push me over the waterfall, we're good. He's like, I'm going out in style. It's like, I'm not going to just whittle away and die. and maybe just that belief of his has always been there for us.
It's a belief. I mean, I've struggled with it where you realize a period of time has gone by, and then you'll hear somebody say that, like, hey, you better start squeezing some more out of this thing because it's going to end. And if you look back and be like, hey, I got to level 103 on some stupid video game, or I did, something meaningless, then, we just all need those reminders. And I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to what you're doing, what Cam's done when you're posting these things. I think that's the important part is not just to live through somebody posting it. And that's the hard part. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's a big piece of it, is that, if you can look at all the stuff you want to, and it might, get some bells, get your attention and get you excited. But if you're not, what you're looking at in the mirror and you're saying your flaws are what you suck at, the only person who's going to change that's you. And the only way to do anything about it is to do something about it. It was funny. Just recently I'd heard, I've never had a planner. Use a planner. Do you plan your day? You probably do.
No, I wish I did. I started to. I'm my ADHD. I feel better about myself when I do, but I don't very often.
I literally, just a week ago, I thought I'm going to make a plan for the day.
Yeah.
Here's my, and I listened to a podcast and he was doing this planner, and he said, if after 5 days, you don't feel like, you're going to see improvements in your life, guaranteed, if you follow the planner. And that is absolutely true. Yes. And here I am, 40 some years old. I'm active. I think I somewhat got my shit together, and all of a sudden I'm writing this stuff down thinking I'm a fucking wreck. I got no idea. I'm not winging my day, but there's a lot more time in my day that I could really be doing something that really is going to improve my life or my family's life. Mm-hmm. And if it's not on paper and you don't have it planned out, you're not going to do it. So it's, very crazy.
Taylor, I host this podcast called Consequence of Habit. So people, I mean, if there's anybody that should be following through with this stuff, it's me. And I'll be honest with you. You were about, there's times I feel like a complete fraud because I'm going, man, I just wasted my day. I host this thing called Consequence of Habit, but it's the reality. I wish I could just adopt every nugget of wisdom from everyone I've talked to, but I'm stubborn, man. It's taken a little more time than I was hoping.
Yeah, I think it's all in bits and pieces, though, right? I look back at my last 10 years of my life and sobering up and doing the things I've done. I look back, I would have never, ever imagined any of this, right? Mm-hmm. To be on a podcast, or 10 years ago, what was even a podcast, right? Yeah. It was, so yeah, no, I do the same thing. I wake up regularly and tell my wife, I'm just like, this is, what am I doing and why am I doing it? I feel like I'm the laziest human in the world. I just blah, blah, walk around with my coffee and complain, but then it passes. Yeah. It's do something about it.
I think it goes back to the growing up part. Growing up isn't an overnight process. It takes time. And I know for myself, it was arrested development for a good part of my life, and from my own doing. And that's why I'm always, somebody just wrote 10 questions, somebody I really respect, been a huge supporter of this. And they're ones that they'll almost do a pulse check of, all right, you've been doing this for a while now. You've come up on 40 episodes. Here's 10 questions, and I want you to think about and get back to me. And I'm like, whoa, I haven't been given an assignment in a long time. I needed it. And
it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because now it's like, are you just putting stuff out there, or what are you actually taking? What are you taking from it? And to go through that and same thing, man, of just looking at what are you doing? It made me feel lazy the same way because there's these trends in everyone I talk to. And it's for anyone to hear you say, I feel lazy, seems insane. But what's in your own mind it's important. And pulling the curtains back and telling other people that it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not the only one that's feeling that way. I don't even know where I'm going with it, but
no, it's the same as every one of us gets out of bed in the morning and hurts. I would think, if there's people that wake up and they just spring out of bed fresh as heck and they're ready to roll, I want some of that, but I don't have, you know what I mean? And those struggles are real, but it's physically, mentally, or emotionally, I get up, my bones hurt. I need to go for a run. I get up, my day yesterday sucked at work. I got my ass ripped, but you got to do another day. You got to get up, you got to put a new face on, you got to get this thing done. Right. And
Yeah.
you can only push those things to the side for so long before you're faced with them. And that's like I told my son the other day, you're either going to pay the price now or you're going to pay it later in life, and just accept it, work through it, figure out what it is, know what you did wrong, and move on. Because if you just try to move on, it's going to catch up with you again.
You
And
can't push.
that's
Yeah, you can't push that shit down.
no,
Because
I'll
it's
quit drinking tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know that works. It
no,
might for somebody, but it never did for me. I need to
no.
stop drinking
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, right, right. Well, those are the people that weren't using it just like we go back to that stillness. They were just those are the people that could just do it because they enjoyed the feeling of it, and then they're okay with reality. And I was never okay with reality. But
No.
so, hey, let's talk about real quick. You've done some work with or collaborate a little bit with was it Jared Shaw? Is that the correct
Yeah,
from Recovery Strong?
recovery.
He,
Yeah,
what's that organization doing? And because I see what they're posting and I'm digging it. I'm loving what they've got going on. So explain their program.
yeah. Jared's recovering himself, and he's got a group of guys that they have some planners that they've used. They have some apparel. He's got I don't know if he has a cycling team. He's a supportive guy. I think he's one of those guys that wants to support people who don't have the resources to find sobriety or stay sober.
Mm.
He has involvement with some other people there in Utah that he works with, and he employs some guys that have gone through the system, and
Mm-hmm.
have
Yeah.
sobered up. And I just saw him last week and got a run in with him, and for me and for the other people I know that interacted with him, we for me, I didn't feel comfortable using resources locally, right? I didn't know anybody and the people I did know were drinking or doing what I was doing. So to be able to have Recovery Strong and somebody outside of my normal circle
Mm-hmm.
to kind of open up their arms and say, "Hey, man, come on in," and support me. And he's an awesome guy. His family's awesome. His kids, just really welcoming people, and to
Mm-hmm.
have people kind of looking in the eye a little bit and say, I know where you've cheated in life and we want to help you get past it and be better. That's what they've done for me. And I think that's all he's there for, is for people to really to do that. But yeah, he's a good cat. I always say all my Mormon friends are pretty awesome. But our Utah friends, are all that way. I'm just really supportive in every journey that we're trying to take and helping us along. So
And that's one of my favorite parts is about that world. You said, "Hey, I know you've cheated in parts of life, and it's not coming from a point of view where it's like you're talking to a psychologist or somebody that's in a position kind of above and looking, not looking down. Maybe that's just a perception, but they're telling you how to do something. When you talk to somebody, it's the same thing. Our first email conversation when you were like, "Hey, okay, you want to come on the podcast? Let me hear something about you," and then you start showing some of your own skeleton and your own bones in the closet, and that person goes, oh yeah, we're okay, we're the same, we've both done the same things, and it's not in a place of shame. It's a
yeah,
place of honesty, and I think the most important thing from that is when people hear that they don't feel the shame. They feel I can actually connect to you, and now you can tell me I know you've cheated in life because I've cheated, and this is maybe the direction you want to start heading.
yeah,
That's what I love about it, man. It's honestly it's the same reason that people that would clown me for at a bar when I said no, I don't drink anymore. They'd come up to you and they would make fun of you, and then they would reach out like a week later
yeah,
and
yep.
and
The
be
classic one, Taylor, nobody likes a quitter. And this was
yeah
a good friend
yeah
who later reached out to me.
mm-hmm.
I was like, hey, I called him on it. I was like, hey, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. But that's what we all do. And we all think we got our shit under control. We don't.
Yeah, and they know they don't. Most
Yeah,
people that have said that to me know that they don't.
yeah,
Or the first time they go, "Hey man, what made you think that you had to make a change?" And then to me, that's your engine warning light that they're having some, you know, if they're exploring that, then they're probably suffering, and you're just getting that tip of the iceberg. But
yeah,
Taylor, we're coming up on an hour, man. People want to follow this journey. They want to see what you're up to. Are you gonna be, I'm imagining you're gonna be posting some during the Cocodona, huh?
Yeah, and Cocodona will have a live stream, a live feed the whole time.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have some live video too, it sounds like. So there's, I think, 200 runners, and it's stacked. It's a super competitive field. Jamil Curry's done and Steve, I think is the other guy, the other race director's name. They've done a fantastic job of getting in some super fast cats. I mean, they got a lot of FKT holders through Arizona, some 200-mile winners. They got a pretty stacked field. It's going to be exciting. It should be a race.
Yeah.
But they'll have a live link, and I'll throw that up on my Instagram and on social media too.
Okay.
So,
and I just want to leave people with this. If you were going to talk to the Taylor Spike version of you're drinking, you're looking to make a change, if you could talk to other people, and I really like to even for you to include somebody who might even be grieving, because no one wants to be the resident expert on grief and substance misuse. Like, you don't wish that on anybody, but I think it's important that other people hear it. Do you have any words of advice? And I know I'm kind of throwing on this like last minute, but if you were going to talk to somebody, what would be some words of wisdom you might share with them?
Honestly, my new thing has been to write out your day, a journal, something on paper, that you can write down what you did through your day, and share it with someone else, and maybe a wife or a brother or sister, somebody you trust and who's going to be honest with you, and ask them, to evaluate your day. Having a plan, and, but maybe it's at 4:00, like, man, I knew you had a beer. I knew you were drinking, right? That's the piece. That's the piece that I think that all of us are going to skip over, and that you have to have that person in your circle that's going to say, that's not really all, right? I mean, I think those reflections, I think that's another way to look in the mirror.
Yeah. And again, it's out of love, because we want the best version of our family members, our friends, or it's not a judgment. And I think it's really hard for people that are experiencing that. You have a perception of shame because it's how you feel about yourself, right? You feel crappy about yourself. So anytime anyone points anything out, it's hard not to have that knee-jerk reaction because you're feeling. It's just like I use the analogy. Anytime I start screaming at somebody on the road, it's because I feel like I feel shitty about myself, and I want everyone else to feel the same way I'm feeling.
Yeah. I used to always be mad. I knew when I was getting too drunk, I'd like pissed. That way people can't keep their distance, right? It was like this, I kind of put this wall up because I knew I was getting out of line, right? When I do that now and I get mad, then it's like, okay, well, I'm actually just mad. But
all right, Taylor, listen, I'm going to have all the links for people, one, to check out what you're doing. Definitely for the Recovery Strong also. We're going to get some t-shirts and stuff out your way, man. And I want to say thank you, man, because I don't think you realized it, but you've really helped take this podcast and get it to a lot of people. And you and I were sharing text messages or messages that we've got from other people who've heard the first one. And I've continued to get those of people saying, hey, man, this one touched me. So you've been a huge part of this. So I just want to say I appreciate it very much.
Well, same. There's nothing more humbling than listening to what you said in a recording, right? And I've listened to that first one, and it's hit me over and over and over. But I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and share a little something. And I tell people all the time, I just want to be helpful. If there's something I can do at work or in life that helps you get by or helps you be successful, I think I've done something. So
yes, cool, man.
All good.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
All
and
right. Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck on the race.
Yeah. Have a good day. Appreciate you. Take care, man.
All right, man. I'm ready for part 3. Thanks again to Taylor Spike. please check out what he is doing. His Instagram is tspike. He's posting amazing things. If you follow this guy just to see the photos he posts, well, you're doing yourself a favor. It's like this guy's moonlighting as a professional photographer. But thank you, Taylor. Thank you guys. Thank you guys all for listening. And I will catch you guys next week.